So we're going to pick up where we left off last time in this social media graphic. And although it's starting to take shape, I run a design studio, and obviously consistency and keeping our graphics on brand is very important to us, and it should be for you as well. Keeping everything on brand gives you a better degree of consistency. It helps to communicate more easily with your target audience. And over time, people will instantly recognize graphics, design choices, and styles that tie in to your company, and hopefully they'll love you for it. So we've got a few things that we're going to tweak on this. We're also going to try a different color combination just to show you how we can easily change colors in Canva if required. But first of all, we're going to have a look at these fonts. I love Montserrat Classic, it's one of my favorites. However, it's not our company brand. It's okay in certain circumstances where we can't upload our own fonts. But the good news with Canva is we can indeed upload our own fonts, and it's especially easy to work with if we have a paid account. Because I've got a brand toolkit uploaded, we've got a series of options that we can choose from, and our own fonts appear towards the top in recently used, or under this brand fonts selection here. So we tend to use Halish for our headings, and we've got two versions uploaded, although I could add additional fonts should I want to. So we've got a black font, which is a little bit chunkier, or we've got a slightly more streamlined bold option. We also then use Aramo for our paragraph. Aramo is a Google font, I believe, so that's readily available. Haliss is one we purchased because, again, we wanted a font that is closer tied to our brand, and we didn't want to make our own font, and we didn't want to use something from Google Fonts, mainly because the amount that they used, especially something like Montserrat Classic. I've added the font in, and we can see now that to get it to fit within this frame width, it's expanded on to an extra line, and the coming soon is just overlapping. So what we want to do is just decrease the font size down until it fits in again. We can deselect container to see how that's looking. We could say, yeah, we're quite happy with that, although we now have a slightly bigger gap above this text than we do below. So when we're working with templates, this is a common occurrence. The moment we change a font, that we change what we're looking to achieve slightly, it can really throw a template out. So we then have to continually adjust every time we change a font. Less so with colors, obviously, but even then when we change one color, we may then have to carry through and change multiple colors to get the desired effect. I'm now selecting the paragraph font, and it's Open Sans. Again, nothing wrong with Open Sans, but we use Aramo as our paragraph font. And again, we can see that the alignment isn't perfect. We really want the Pixelhaze Academy to be on the same line, or make it larger so that the more information drops down below. So again, I'm going to highlight that text. We're going to try it larger first. So there's nothing wrong with that. We know that's an option. And we'll see how much smaller we need to make it. I actually quite like it with smaller font size, but that's a personal choice. Both options pass our design quality check. I can now highlight the text for the link, and I might go with our primary selection. These are our brand colors. Even though we use additional colors, we always go back to these as our brand choices. And I'm going to go with the lighter blue. So it highlights it to a degree, but not too much that it's jarring with the rest of the design. Alternatively, we could use our tertiary font color, tertiary palette color, should I say, yellow. Both work. I'm going to go with yellow, and I might even adjust this arrow to yellow as well. What we can see here actually is this has been created using multiple shapes, which is quite clever. You can see that there's a line, or 3 lines creating the arrow, and then a separate shape creating the circle. So how do we work with this? We can right click and then select ungroup, and now we're back to individual shapes. And having a color palette on here, again on the paid option, just speeds up this process. However, my recommendation for whether you go with the paid version really depends on how much you're going to use Canva. If you use it a lot, it's well worth the cost, because it makes your job designing that much easier again. Okay, so I've changed the colors for all of those elements. I can now highlight over them, again right click and group them. Control and G or Command and G on a Mac will achieve the same outcome. And now this is starting to come closer to our brand. I'm not going to change this font here because we're just going to get rid of it completely. We've already got the website address in the paragraph. So again, right click and group, or Control Shift and G. I'm going to select the text block and just press the delete button. Again, I believe it's backspace on a Mac. Now we're going to go into our image library. So these are graphics that we've illustrated and designed ourselves and have uploaded. So you can see here now I could use this graphic instead of the photo. But we're going to change it up in this particular design, and we've used this one quite a bit on a lot of our course material. So it's nice to have a photo in instead. So we're going to keep that in place. And now we're going to use one of these graphics here. So I've got lots of versions of our studio brand, Pixelhaze. And I've got a blue version of the Pixelhaze Academy logo. So I could either drop that in, and what I need to do is actually upload multiple color versions in all of our brand colors. So that would be the light blue, the navy blue, yellow, and white. And then I have them in multiple styles then that I can use depending on the graphic. When you upload PNG files, which is how these are created, we can't actually change the colors. So a lot of graphics that have been added in, like the Canva logo, we could indeed change the colors. And I might decide to do that. Technically, you shouldn't be changing other brand colors, but I want Canva to be secondary to our own brand. So a slight adjustment to bring the Canva circle into our brand could work quite nicely. Just don't tell them I did that. We've got our logo in here. We could say we're done and dusted with that effect. But what I want to actually try to achieve is see if we can get this and try it in a different color scheme. First of all, I'm going to duplicate the page instead of add a new blank page, because I don't know yet whether I want to go with this option or to go with our alternative option. So by duplicating, I can get those 2 options available that I can compare against. And now I'm going to get rid of that Pixelhaze Academy logo. But before I do that, I might put the new one in place. So this is the conundrum I have, but thankfully it's easy to fix. I've got a white version of the Pixelhaze Academy logo, but it's part of this longer graphic. So if I double click on it, I'll try that again. I actually don't need to double click on it. Apologies for that. I can just click and drag the left or right handle to crop off the part of the image that I don't need. So it saved me having to go through the process of recreating a new graphic, in this case in Adobe Illustrator, and then re-uploading it. I could just add that in. I want it roughly in the same place. It's a little bit larger, but I'm not worried about that. And I'm holding Shift now on the keyboard and then using the up arrow key. That will move it up so I can get rid of the blue one below it. And I just made sure I counted the number of times I used the up arrow with Shift pressed down. So again, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get it back into the place that it was before. It's a tiny bit wider, but not in any way that's problematic. So now we have that in the white. We could take this background shape and again switch it to one of our brand colors. And it's given us a very different look. It's also given us a little bit of a headache in terms of we need to make sure that that text really pops. So I could try an alternative route where we go with darker text on a light background. And again, I can either select it all with this paragraph and change it all to a darker color. And I could always change that yellow back. Not really doing much for me in that yellow. It's getting a little washed out. Also for accessibility, it's not the best. So what I'm going to do on this one to get around that issue is I'm going to underline it. We're going to keep the white version of the logo. And what I'm going to do with this again, because the yellow is getting a little bit washed out on this background, so I'm going to switch it to white. And there we go. We now have two variations of this graphic, and both are perfectly on brand, and we're ready to post these.